So you're a beginner motorcyclist and you want a bike that can do everything. You want to go on trails, you want to commute, you want to do long distances, and you want to be comfortable while you do it. Well, a generation ago, they would have told you to get a sport touring motorcycle, but today, the adventure bike is kind of the do-it-all bike. Now, Triumph says this is the ultimate all-rounder, but is that true, and can you actually ride something like this as a beginner? Let's get into it.
Alrighty guys, some salient specs for you right off the jump. We have an 888cc triple in here that is basically the same as the Tiger 900, however it is down-tuned. It's making 84 horsepower and 60 foot-pounds of torque. It also weighs in at about 460 pounds wet and ready to ride. They claim 423 dry because Triumph's always dry weight. This bike costs you $12,000 at the showroom floor, but it does come with an adjustable seat height from about 32.5 inches to just under 32 at 31.8, which is not a huge difference, but it does make it easier for some of our shorter statured riders to attempt to flat foot this motorcycle. Now let's bring in a more standard beginner bike and see how this thing really compares.
All right, guys, we have this Kawasaki Z650 here, the standard larger displacement motorcycle that people may start on. And when you look at the Tiger 850 over here, it's huge in comparison, right, Spite?
Yeah, this thing is gigantic. There's no getting around that. And what's crazy is this isn't even the biggest adventure bike. They get bigger than this. They get longer, they get wider, they get a lot taller too. And this thing is, there's a lot of motorcycle here. You can't escape the fact that your tank is like 2 feet wide at its widest. And it's very long. There's a lot of stuff in front of you. You got your windscreen, you got your dash, you got this whole beak. This thing has nothing. It's a lot more pared down, a lot simpler, and a lot easier to ride because of it.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's simpler because it's just simply cheaper. This bike is about $7,200 versus the Tiger's $12,000 price point. But with that $12,000 price point, you get stuff like a TFT, adjustable controls. You actually have a lot of adjustability on this motorcycle in terms of the seat, the bars, the preload quick adjuster at the rear. It's got lots of cool features and tech on it. And the other big thing you'll notice on the Z is the seat is so much lower, and the rider triangle here is a lot more amenable for basically any kind of rider. And in fact, Spite, now that I think about it, we've got a ton of people here at the Yammie Noob shop today. Why don't we get them all in the Tiger 850 and see how they fit?
Let's do it.
I'm Josh. I ride an SV650, and I am about 5'8" with about a 28-inch inseam. This seat here is on the taller height setting, and I cannot get 2 heels down on the ground. I'm pretty comfortable and planted on my platforms, and I can get 1 down if I lean either way. But if I was just starting out, it would be a little bit daunting, always coming to a stop and just sitting down on my platforms.
All right, guys, you know me. I am actually 6'4", we just measured, which makes me feel nice and pretty. But as I'm mounting up on this motorcycle with my 32-inch inseam, I am completely comfortable on this motorcycle. As a taller rider, I've often told people to run out and look at adventure bikes because they're one of the few bikes that feels normally sized for me. If I get up on the pegs, I got a ton of room. It's super duper comfortable. It's just like my SMCR, except a lot wider. The handlebars are basically in the same spot. It's a very comfortable place to sit, and I would not even bother adjusting the seat height. I would definitely leave it at the top seat height and just ride it as is. Basically like a lazy boy on wheels for me.
Alrighty, guys, now that we've seen how everyone here at the shop fits on this motorcycle, there's only one thing left to do. Let's get it out on the road and see how it rides. Alrighty, everyone, we are out on location with the Tiger 850 Sport. Spite, is it a beginner bike?
No.
Yeah, no,
Nope.
It's not. If you guys don't want to watch the rest of the video, you can just click out now. This is not a good beginner bike. We're going to get into why it's not, but, you know, it was interesting entertaining the notion that it could be, but I just think the engine's too grunty, you know?
It's a very, very pokey engine. I was thinking like, okay, it's down-tuned.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big engine that's got a different map on it. It's going to be very chill. It is a proper, powerful engine.
Yeah. I'm going to turn this on for you guys so you can take a listen to it. So as we mentioned in the shop, this is a 888cc triple, and that's a big displacement, no matter how you slice it. And that's a lot, you know?
It zings up quick, and it has a lot of torque.
Yeah, it's the torque really that makes a difference.
It's that same just plateau of torque that you get with any of the Triumph triples. They're so good engines that they deliver really usable power no matter where you are.
Yeah.
But the problem is they deliver really usable power no matter where you are. There's no chill spot with this bike.
Yeah. Why don't you mount up for me and just do some slow speed like you were doing earlier and walk me through maybe why a beginner would be, intimidated by it, I think, because it's such a commanding, large bike,
Yeah, I mean, first things for sure, this thing is tall. And if you can't put a foot down, I know that scares off a lot of people who are really fresh to motorcycling.
Yeah.
And as you get going, you really need to be looking through a corner and dragging that rear brake.
Yep.
And being light on the bars. And that can be a lot to work together with if you can't just immediately put a foot down and hold the motorcycle up.
Yeah.
Also, these bikes get top heavy, or they get very heavy very quickly. You just get it that far over, and you're like, oh shit. Yeah. So this thing gets very heavy, and you put it on its side, man, you're gonna crunch a lot of plastic, and it's gonna be a shame.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we were talking about it on the way up here. It's a $12,000 motorcycle. I know a lot of guys are starting out and they might have the pocketbook for an expensive bike, but I don't know, man. Like, that's a lot of coin for your very first motorcycle. I don't think that's worth it as your first one.
Yeah, it's a lot to put down on a motorcycle that you're gonna do some bad things to. No matter what your beginner bike is, you're gonna do some bad stuff to it. You're gonna drop it. You're gonna strip bolts and break things as you learn how to work on it. It would be a crying shame to do that to this motorcycle.
And it's a bummer because what I think happens is, specifically for a lot of guys, a lot of men out there have this more than women I've seen, is, they'll want to get on a bigger, badder bike because they don't want to, damage their sense of ego or masculinity. They're like, oh, I don't want to get a 300 because I'm a big guy. I got to get this adventure bike. I want to start off on the one that makes sense, But, guys, it really doesn't make sense to get that bike as your first.
Yeah, watch this. It just fucking goes, man. It's a fast motorcycle, and what's crazy about it is you don't feel how fast it is because the wind protection is so good.
Honestly, that makes a great point to why it's also not a great beginner bike. It actually caught me out once because I don't ride bikes with windscreens, and I was coming into a corner pretty damn hot. I had to trail in the brakes. I was like, whoa, I'm going way too fast for this, and I didn't even notice I was going fast,
Yeah, the wind protection is a double-edged sword. It's really great for when you're going long distances, but it's easy to override this motorcycle because as you get more used to riding, you use wind as a gauge of speed. Especially as you're not looking at the dash when you're going through these corners. So I could see this definitely catching people out.
The good thing is, though, it has lots of traction control. It's got a rain and road mode, and so maybe, and I don't like this idea, but you could maybe do it in rain mode and then see how it feels. But again, that's the prototypical second motorcycle, I think. It's a great second bike. It's not a good first bike.
Oh, this is a perfect second motorcycle, especially if you want something that really kind of can do whatever you want it to do. Slap some luggage on this thing and just go for the horizon. You can ride for hours and hours and hours and be totally comfortable on it.
It's so comfortable, it's ridiculous.
This is by far the most comfortable motorcycle seat I've ever sat on.
I'm not gonna lie, I've been putting out about 150 miles on that bike over the weekend, just kind of testing it and making my first ride and impression video on it. And I was a little jealous of it on the highway compared to my sled for the daily ride. I was like, God, it's so comfortable.
Yeah. And going through these corners, it's feeling fine. It's totally doing it. Although it doesn't feel great. There's something about it that just feels a little strange dipping it in. And I think that's down to the tall suspension and big front tire.
Well, it's that and the fact that bike is on 110s up front and a 150 out back, so that's not a whole lot of tire for how big that bike is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
This Z is a smaller bike, it weighs a lot less, and it's got a 120 up front and a 160 out back, so it's got more rubber than that big bike. So It's weird. It's you know, almost like a dirt bike setup, but I'd never call that thing a dirt bike.
No, God, no. This is another one of those things where, yeah, you could take it off-road, but it would hurt a lot to set this thing down.
You can take that thing off-road in the same way that you can take the Gixxer 250 off-road.
Hey, man, the Gixxer 250 crushed it out there.
The most capable off-road little bike.
I just am gobsmacked at how good this feels. It feels really smooth and really pulled together. But it's also one of those motorcycles where it doesn't goad you into doing anything. In fact, it kind of discourages it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I made a joke on our Discord server where I was like, whenever you start pushing on that bike, it's like it pops up its head and goes, right, what's all this then?
It's not that it doesn't feel like it could do it. It just doesn't feel great doing it. You know, it just wants to chill. It's a gigantic cruiser that you know, looks fancy.
You know, speaking of the looks fancy thing, another reason why I wouldn't want to get that as a first bike is like, and maybe this is like a weird, almost like morality thing that I have about bikes, but I'm like, I feel like you have to earn riding the nice bike, you know?
Yeah, there is.
I feel like you can't start out on something super nice because then you'll never know what a shit bike feels like, you know?
Everybody's got to have their beat up 300 at some point.
Yeah, I feel like when you start on a little beat up 400 and then you elevate to, you know, an MT-09 or a KTM 890 or something, you'll really be like, holy crap, this bike is awesome. It feels so good to ride and it's just, you know, so smooth. Like, if you start on something like that, you're not really going to understand how nice it really is.
Yeah, you're just going to be like, this is just a normal motorcycle. It's why, you know, my KTM feels so good is because I came off of cruisers and I had a fairly uncomplicated VFR, and going up to the SMCR was like going through space and time. This thing it's almost too nice for a beginner.
Yeah.
But I love the feel. This is a motorcycle I would probably never get off of it. I would just, like, again, go for the horizon. I'd get the little windscreen thing so that it shoots air over my head.
Yep.
Get the bags and fill them with sandwiches and then just go.
I mean, shit, with a 5.2 gallon tank, that thing's got a big range, so you don't really have to get off of it that often.
Yeah.
You'd probably have to fill up twice on this bike and the time you'd have to fill up once on that bike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's why adventure bikes really aren't adventure bikes so much as they are just sport tourers, really.
Yep.
You know? They're sport tourers in a different suit.
So I guess it begs the question, do you think any adventure bike is beginner appropriate? Because the Tenere 700 is about that big, even though it has the MT-07's engine, which is a little less powerful than that 888cc triple. I don't know. I think I don't think there is an appropriate beginner ADV except for like the Duke Adventure, you know, the 390.
Yeah, and to be honest, I've seen that one in person, and while it is nice, you can tell it's the cheap one.
Yeah.
I feel like if you really are a beginner and you want to have an adventure motorcycle, get yourself a WR 250 and put a rally tank on it, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Maybe put a little bit more wind protection up front. That's really the way to go, and you can get that done in an afternoon in the garage for not much money. So I feel like that's the way to go.
Honestly, even for beyond beginners, I'd kill for a WR with a rally tank. That'd be awesome.
You know, one thing I'm noticing, because I have the windscreen up in its tallest position, is when I'm just going and cruising, my glasses are fogging up inside of my helmet. Whereas other bikes would be totally clear because I'd get some airflow.
Yeah.
This is one of the most polite motorcycles out there, while also still having a little bit of an edge. This one steals its dad's keys every night and runs out and goes to punk rock shows somewhere, even though he's got, you know, a fancy boarding school education.
Yeah, he's the guy that shows up to like the cool punk rock show, but then he leaves in his Range Rover back to his like nice ass house, you know.
Yep, exactly.
He's like, oh, that was a fun little escape. Anyways, time to get away from these proles.
Back to culture. I must have my caviar this evening.
Yeah, have a cup of tea. mean, bikes like that are awesome. It's just cool that they exist in the marketplace, and they fill such an interesting niche for people. You know, I think a lot of people would be interested in that bike, and a lot of people are interested in this very do-it-all kind of commuter-focused bike that could do long distances and is super comfortable and usable and isn't going to wear you out. But yeah, if you're a beginner rider, definitely skip the 850 Sport and bikes like it. It's a bit too much.
Do you think it is truly the best all-rounder, though? You know, obviously it's really good on road. You know, on the highway it's awesome.
Yeah.
But I feel like this would be a bear off-road.
Yeah, I took it down the little scrambly bit that I take all of our bikes down over here off near this road. It does fine. It does, you know, you could definitely chuck it down a road. I would never do it anything more than just like a gravel trail or a forest road or something. But a Triumph really doesn't intend for you to do that much. I mean, I was looking at their marketing materials for the 850 Sport, and it wasn't off-road not once, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
So I think in keeping with what they intend for you to do with the bike, where it's like commuting, maybe light twisty riding, you know, I think when you check off all the boxes on a motorcycle, you end up checking off none of them, you know? It's a jack of all trades problem and a master of none. It's a perfectly competent bike and it works really well, but I wouldn't choose it as the perfect all-rounder, personally. What do you think?
If all I cared about was the motorcycle literally achieving everything that it says it's out to do, but not do anything spectacularly, then yes, this is the perfect motorcycle. It will commute, it'll do long miles, you could take it down a gravel road, but it's too pulled together, it's too buttoned up, it's too Honda for me.
Yeah, it doesn't have enough pizzazz. But for what it's worth, compared to something like a Versys 650, it's got a ton of pizzazz and character with that 888cc.
Oh my God, if you're in the market for a Versys 650, get yourself the Triumph 850 Sport, baby.
Yeah. Love yourself, you know? You don't have to live like that.
No, you really don't. Come on, Ari.
No,
get this bike.
Why you gotta call him out like that?
Because I still do not understand why he's got the Versys 650.
We're not advanced enough. That's why. One day we'll understand, but we're not there yet. We have to literally put a mini moto on the back of a Versys to race the mini moto at a little go-kart track. Then maybe we'll get it.
Have that enlightening moment.
No, you know what we need to do too is I need to buy like a multistrada and then tie my race suit to the back of it, drive like 2,000 miles to a racetrack, do a track day, and then drive back. Then I would be as cool as them, but I'm not. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. We're trying to hit that 1 milli here on YouTube. If you're interested in the Tiger 850 Sport, definitely check it out. It's a pretty sweet bike. Thanks for Triumph for loaning me the ride, and catch you on the next one. See you later. Bummer for you, my little squid. This video is actually over, but lucky for you, there's plenty of other Yammie videos you can check out right over here. What's gonna happen to them? I don't know. I haven't seen them, but you can watch them right now.